There's nothing like being an entrepreneur, but go do it. We're wasting time here. Go do it. And so that really was the, one of the first kicks in the butt that I had of, stop talking about it, just do it.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems, not little ones. Now, those little ones, just kick them to the curb. They ain't worth it. Put them over there in the cup. It just makes me think of the mason jar with the rocks and the pebbles and the sand, and it ain't going to fit if you put the sand in first and then you do the pebbles and you do the rocks. Folks, you got to do the big problems first. That's what we talk about, big problems. Big ones, like where are you going to put the boxes? That's a big problem.
Yes. And for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to put them right there. Just right outside there. We're going to see how high I can stack them, and we'll be all right, and hopefully keep the podcast background nice. But worst case, if I got a bunch of cardboard boxes, that's okay. I think people will understand, or I hope people would understand.
It's behind the scenes living. I
was going to say, they haven't said anything about these two paint testers that I put up on the wall as soon as they moved into this house that have been there since we started the show, or started the show in this house. So, yeah, I think I'm okay with my background.
Yeah. I have not received any denials or complaints that I'm no longer watching the show because of those two paint spots that Camden has.
Yes, sir.
So I'm our guest, Patrick Matt, joining us. Patrick, what's behind that curtain?
What's behind that curtain?
Yeah, you got a Patriot Jean Company's flag, banner, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, that's
hanging behind you. Is it hiding anything?
That is the Patriot Jean Co. Official banner, and it's got a T-shirt over here, got a stock of our jeans over here. So really excited to dive in and talk about all the things I've learned in this process.
But is it hiding anything behind that?
It's
that banner?
Hiding a wall.
Oh, okay. All right. Darn, man. I thought we were going to get a little glimpse into the production. I thought that might be where the sewing machine is right behind it. My thought whenever, and I don't remember if I asked you this first time you and I talked a while back, and if I did, I'll ask it again. You've rehearsed it because I have forgotten it. Why the heck jeans? I mean, what you're veteran, Army, and you're going to make blue jeans. And because I was making fun of another buddy of mine this morning who's making soap, and I'm like, that's a whole nother world. So why jeans, man? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, thank you so much for the honor and privilege to be here with yourself and with Camden, and certainly appreciate the run up to this conversation and getting to know both of you a little bit better. Why jeans, though? When I was in the Army, obviously they gave me exactly what they wanted me to wear. I wore my camouflage BDUs. I think I'm dating myself by saying BDU, battle dress uniform. But so that's what I wore. And then when I transitioned into aerospace and defense contracting, right, business casual. So I'd wear sport coats and dress shirts and dress pants all the time. And then, a couple of things happened right around 2020 is we had this thing called COVID hit. And they asked every one of us to start working from home. And what I found is that on Zoom such as this, I could still wear a sport coat, but I did not have to wear dress pants and dress shoes. So, I thought, okay, let me go out and get a couple of really good premium American-made jeans that I can have and wear with my sport coats. And there the challenge began, and I just could not find anything to my liking. Either the majority of things weren't made here in America, or they weren't made to my liking. I started digging in on some of the research, and found that over 450 million pairs of jeans are made in the United States, and yet around 2%, only 2%, are actually made here in America. And even for some of the jeans that are made in America, they'll import the fabric, or they'll import some of the pieces within the supply chain. And so I thought, there's got to be a way to do this, and to deliver what I was looking for, a really good premium pair of 100% American made jeans, from cottonseed to denim jean and everything else in between, zippers, seams, pocketing, all of that. And so I took the better part of a year and a half designing, developing, and getting my supply chain together, which included restarting factories that had been closed for years and years and years, and putting Americans to work in order to deliver this premium pair of denim jeans. And so that, in a nutshell, is why we're doing what we're doing.
I got to say, it is such an interesting, and I was trying to scratch my head for the right metaphor or analogy or whatever, it is so funny that, because you're talking about the soap, and my first thought was, that guy must have hated how dirty y'all got on deployment. And it's like, but it's so funny because there are so many little stories like that. Like Patrick, what you're talking about, it's like, man, I hated not being able to wear my jeans. And so even though it's weird for me to think about, it's like, you're over there like, God, I miss blue jeans. Like, it totally makes sense. It's funny how people see the thing they want to see. And that's where all these different business ideas come from. So I just had to point that out, because I don't know if people had noticed that trend that I'm noticing with a lot of our guests. But the thing I really wanted to follow up with, Patrick, and this is the most expose type question I feel like I've asked on this show. So are you telling me all of our great American jean brands like Wrangler and Lee, are they all lying to us? They got Brett Favre up there. You're telling me that's not American?
Yeah. And, so what really frustrated me is one of the last pairs of jeans that I bought several years ago. On the inside of the pocketing fabric, it talked about this iconic American brand, right? And, founded in America, and, that really created jeans and all of this foundational American brand, right? And then you go to the tag and it's made in country X, right? Mm-hmm. It's not made in America. And so that frustrated me. And I will say there's a 99.9% of chance that all of your jeans, Camden, are not made in America, right? Mm-hmm. Even if the final assembly is done in America, to take the time and put together the supply chain and everything else that is 100% American made, has been a challenge. And we've had several stops and starts along the journey. I would say there was probably at least half a dozen different times where I threw up my hands and said, okay, if this is the end of the story, we made a good run, right? But we just kept pressing in and persevering to get to what we were extremely proud of, and a good product that I think our customers will just love.
Well, I can tell you, if you hadn't thrown your hands up at least once a week and said, that was it, as an entrepreneur, you ain't doing it right. I can tell you that. So did mom teach you how to sew as a kid? I mean, there's some parallels to a project that I've got, and we've talked about that. Or did you just kind of sketch some things up and maybe grab a pair of old bed sheets and make some test jeans out of them?
Well, actually, neither of that. So I, as my only sewing, I think, was in preparation for an Army training school that I think, Otis, you're familiar with. But I had to sew on my name patch to the uniform they gave me, and so with little needle and thread. And so I think that's my only experience with sewing. And it wasn't something where I came from the design field. I came from running major defense and aerospace industry programs. And so what I thought is, I've got an engineering degree and an engineering mindset. I have managed projects. I have managed supply chain. I have done bid and proposal and negotiation before. I said, if I can take all of these skills and apply them to a new field and bring in the experts to help me with the technical nuances, maybe I can actually do that. So one of the very first things I did was I took a trip to North Carolina to be a part of basically a Denim 101 class. And for a week, we understood, we got taught about, how denim jeans are made, from cottonseed to, ginning to spinning yarn to dyeing to, how denim rolls are made to how it all comes together and different styles and different ways to do that. And from there, every step was just another lesson learned. I like, okay. So, eventually I brought in a team of experts to kind of help design and develop the jeans. And, just gave them feedback, sent them several pairs of jeans. I said, I like this here, but maybe tweak this here. I like this here, maybe tweak this here. And so, went a few rounds on that and, then started, working on sourcing of who could provide, buttons and rivets and pocketing fabric and denim and all of this. And, some of the conversations I've had, I will tell you, our supply chain is just jacked that somebody is doing this, right? One of the companies we're working with, actually, they shipped equipment back from one of their overseas plants back to their stateside plant because they had shut this down long ago. But they thought it was worth the investment to get something like this going. So, seeing the revitalization of the American workforce and putting Americans back to work, it's been so exciting. And to see people equally excited about bringing this vision to reality has been, quite the journey.
Talking about rebuilding that supply chain, I think that's such an interesting thing because when we talk about, whether it's jobs going overseas or the factories and all that kind of stuff, there's this really big macroeconomic picture that it's really freaking hard to understand. Even the economists don't understand much of it, right? There's this certain level where it's we're just guessing at all these different trades and tariffs and all this kind of stuff that business owners, we need to understand those things to an extent and how they affect us, but it's that's a whole other ballgame. What you're talking about that I find so interesting because it's a conversation I don't think I've really heard much is what I would call the microeconomic story behind that. Of there's this factory in North Carolina, there's this factory here, there's these farmers here, and how they kind of wind up as these fragments of that old supply chain. Could you talk a little bit about what it was like, kind of discovering those different pieces, and rebuilding the supply chain probably isn't quite right because it seems like it's a little bit more chaotic than it might have been back before. But connecting those dots.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, Cam. And it is kind of a puzzle that we're putting together. Taking a step back, one of the other things I learned, during the COVID era, and I think this transcends industries too, is we realized that if everything is internationally sourced, at some point it can become a house of cards and all fall apart, right? The aerospace industry was crushed. A number of industries were crushed, and it was interesting to say the least to put together. And we've dealt with challenges in order to make that 100% American source. For instance, if I wanted a certain button or rivet to look like this, right? I could go to China and have 17 of them, or do you need 1,700? I could get them shipped out within the week, right? But if I want those American made, right, I'm restarting a factory line, having equipment shipped in from overseas back to the United States. They're hiring workers to put that together. And all of that takes money. And so what our suppliers do, and rightfully so, is they have to charge minimum order quantities. In order for us to do this, we have to have at least an order of this. And so, in some cases, we're ordering 10, 15, 20, 100 times our need for initial production run in order to do that. So we've absorbed a lot of costs along the way. But in the end, we think we're going to build a robust community of suppliers who intend to stay in this game.
I want to stay in that space because I think I'm fascinated by it because it ain't like the cotton seed ain't that like that stopped, right? Yeah, the factory probably not as much, but the fellows in West Texas, down in Louisiana, they've been making growing cotton for centuries. So connecting those dots, and I think this is a little bit of what Camden was talking about in the microeconomics. that must have been an interesting, attacking the network, to use something that we used to do against bad guys. Is that kind of where your frame of mind was? And this, the supply chain isn't, the pickup truck driving with a bolt of cloth and a bucket of snaps. There's a lot more to it. Could you go into that thought process of, big hand, little map, down to, Farmer Bob,
Right.
Is the guy.
Right. That's such a great question. And, it started back with my trip to North Carolina to start engaging the overall community. Right. And so what's what they call now denim heads. Right. And I'm now a denim head, apparently. But through that experience, I got introduced to Joe or Bob or Sally. Right. And so, took their contact information. And so then I'd call person X, and they'd say, "Hey, but I'm not the right person, but maybe you could talk to this person, and maybe you could talk to that person." All of a sudden, I'm speaking with executives at, a denim mill, and I'm speaking with executives at, a pocketing fabric maker. And all of a sudden, I'm speaking to the right people. And, this industry is so unique because everybody was willing to help, right? Go talk to these people, go talk to that, refine this and do this and talk to this person, right? And, I found that extremely refreshing, that you see the desire of folks to, to make your dream come true. And, it was, what can we do? We had some suppliers lining up, "Hey, I'm going to send you some material and you just keep it, but let me know if you like it," and things like this. So it was really cool.
I'll vouch for that, because I've got a supplier that's, sending me probably like 30 yards worth of material as, "Hey, we've got this. We want to help you out." And it's like, holy crap. The other thing, sorry, Cam. Other thing is that I'm thinking is this whole discovery learning process. In that, all right, I got my jeans. I need some denim. Oh, we also need pockets, need rivets, threads. How many times did you go, yes, and then crap? What about?
Yes. And so not only that, there was a point, there's been points where we've been in, I'll say, pre-production a couple of times, and they're like, "Well, we thought we only needed this or this, but actually we need some of that too." I won't get into how many different size threads are in one pair of jeans. And in order to set up the machine, you need these large spools, right? And so, you're Xing everything. And of course, we're using custom colors and everything else. So, every little oops has been, well, that isn't just, we'll start again tomorrow. That's okay. We've got to re-engage the whole chain now. And it became, 3 months, 6 months, and so all of those little learning lessons about what it takes to put together. But, to that end, there have been people, trying to forecast what my needs would have been and help me along the way. And I brought in a consultant to help me get through production. And, she's been amazing. And our factory now is amazing. Seeing our jeans come together, got a stack of them right here. We're super excited that, to see everything come together of, oh yeah, I told them to put the stitch there. I told them to put the tag there, right? All of those things. It's amazing when it all comes together.
I'd love if you could talk some about the communication and leadership aspect of getting that vision out there, because that's such an interesting thing of when you have this vision for the business, for the product, even in your case, and you're able to paint that out for folks, and then you're handing it off and they're building it, and you still are getting the final say, like you said, you could, things come back to you. So it's not quite outside of your control, but it definitely is for a chunk of time there. So that's got to be tough from a leadership perspective.
Yes. And there are times, Cam, I think we talked about this before, is flexing your leadership style, right? And so there are times where I've had to flex my leadership style, going back to my early days right outside the Army when I was a young project manager. there were often times I dig into the details of, okay, if X equals Y, then, Z, and what are the requirements we need here, and what are the tolerances we need here, right? To dive into those details. And, then there were other times as leading programs, you'd have to say, okay, I want that person either to solve it, either so that they can develop their own leadership abilities, or because I believe they're more technically competent than I am, right, for that particular thing. And certainly the latter has been true, in this new industry for me is when, I would get pushback on, hey, I know what you're saying, but, maybe we should do it like this. I really heartfully considered those things because, being in a new industry and at the end of the day, being able to flex of when should I say, no, yea, verily, this is what I want, or I understand your point. It's easier for production, or it makes a better product if we do it this way. And so I would say, that was a learning process also, and certainly leading by example as opposed to leading by influence too. With a lot of
shop floor manager that I'm hearing.
I do have a floor manager. Leading by influence, has been a learning experience too of people that you're partnering with, or consultants rather than directly leading.
So what I'm jumping to when you were talking about people getting excited and wanting to restart and hiring Americans and the waving the red, white, and blue and all that sort of stuff, is how much of it your gut needs to tell us how much of it was Patriot and how much of it was product. You know what I mean? Is that making sense in that question?
How much was Patriot and how much was product? So I believe the two are intertwined in that, I think that we will build the absolute best pair of jeans that you can get at a certain price point, right? And I think part of the reason for that is the patriotism. And what do I mean by patriotism? I mean, some of the core traditional values, hard work, responsibility, accountability, that people bring to the job, right? Entrepreneurship in each one of these situations. So I think those two are definitely intertwined, the product and the patriotism. And I've worked with people that have been in this particular industry, the denim industry, for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, right? And so who go all the way back to the quote golden years of when everything was produced in America. And so I think those two are interwoven and it captures it right in the name of our company, Patriot Jean Co. To say, hey, we are going to produce a premium pair of denim jeans that we believe is unsurpassed in quality and craftsmanship.
I gotta ask, and because I think this is always an interesting thing, and I feel comfortable asking you that, Patrick, because I know you're on the right side of this question. So don't worry, it's not a gotcha or anything. But it's always an interesting thing with the Made in America as a sales pitch. I think kind of what you were getting to a little bit, Dad, of this oh look, it's American, and it becomes this almost a value add that doesn't actually denote real value. Because there is great things that are made in America. There's also people who slap that on there and put out some crap and try to sell it for way too much because they're like, well, look, it's American. It's no, but you could do that same price. You could do higher quality, and you could do this, and you could actually make it a really good thing. Making I think the best way to put it is, making the Patriot and Patriot jean the bonus rather than the necessity for me to buy it. The jeans themselves are great, and the American stuff, that's all extra. Could you talk a little bit about what that process is like, or maybe even some pushback you had to kind of go the other way with it?
Yeah. And that's a great question is, are we selling patriotism or are we selling premium denim jeans with the Patriot Jean Co. Label on them? And I think these are a little bit intertwined, but, I would say there's not a markup per se of having patriotism embedded in your denim jeans. And, we are paying for quality. We are paying for 100% American made. And sometimes that means restarting factories. We are paying for American citizens to put these premium denim jeans together, right? A very astute quality control process in that. And so, I would think that, we are selling a premium pair of denim jeans, and patriotism is embedded in that. And when you look at various price points, if I could put together a pair of jeans, let's say, overseas, and get a lot higher margins than what I currently am right now, right? And so, but I've chosen to do things a certain way with the company and with certain people and with certain quality aspects of it, right? And so not only is that increase my supply chain costs, but at the same time, my top line comes down, and ultimately what's delivered into my bottom line comes down, and I'm taking smaller margins than what I think I could do by making these overseas. But it matters, right? To me, it matters. Producing a premium pair of denim jeans matters, rather than just a pair of jeans that you're going to see your pockets blowing out, that you're going to not be comfortable in. They're not going to feel even better the more you wear them. So all of those things I think factor into that, Cam. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I got a follow up there because you've hinted at, and I think most people kind of have an idea of this, but you talk about the idea of the patriotism and the jeans being intertwined. I mean, denim is a very American thing, I think of, and I don't know if this is literally where it came from. The origin stories come to mind for me were the miners out in California, the gold rush and all that kind of stuff. I would love if you could give a history lesson on it, and I want to put one other tag in there before I let you go, because what I keep thinking of talking about making the American jeans was, and Dad, I hope you can help me out on this to remember the exact price. But do you remember Mike Rowe talking about this, the authentic Americana work jeans that were being sold? It was some big company, and they were like $350 with fake mud on them and everything. It's like, that's how American it is you can sell them as fake work to, as designer stuff. Like, that's how American the idea of work jeans are. So I want to throw that out. Dad, is that ringing a bell at all? Can you help me on that thought? All right. Well, hey, someone out there.
I call someone out there's going to catalog models all the time, though. Them people ain't got any calluses on their hands. They're wearing a Carhartt jacket and got mud on their boots, and they had to put that mud on there by the makeup artist. That's all I got. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. But yeah, that's how American the idea is. But yeah, Patrick, talk to us about where that comes from, why it is so American.
Yeah, Cam, you're spot on in that. That's where it came from. Gold Rush. There is a classic American brand that really invented, if you will, denim jeans, and made that for the miners, and these were for the workers, right? They called them coveralls or something at that time, so you'd wear them over your long underwear, and you'd be able to wear them day after day. And so back then, we're talking almost 150 years. The price point, to give you an example, comparatively, economies to economies, it would be like spending $250 to $275 of today's money on that single pair of jeans for that worker, right? Wow. But so it was an investment, right? And, you even go talk about the rivets were put in because their seamstresses and machines at the time weren't able to sew, quite the stitch that would be needed so that the seams wouldn't come apart, right? Rivets live on in jeans today, even though, they're more for decor than anything else. And also the fifth pocket, right? Another feature of which, if the fifth pocket was lacking in your jeans, you would say, oh boy, what's wrong with these jeans? It's just something we expect. And trust me, because I went through this in the creative process. I said, why do we need the fifth pocket, right? And so we went through all of this. All the way up until you had cotton mills and denim mills all over the place, all over the South, branching out west. You had some denim mills that were producing enough material for, hundreds of thousands of denim jeans every day, and they were cranked, huge factories that were just cranking around the clock to meet the need. And then it turned. Starting in the 80s, definitely in the 90s and in the 2000s, and meant by about 2017, one of the last major denim mills moved overseas, right? And so you've got just a couple, 3 or 4 very small denim mills that actually produce the denim needed for blue jeans now. And that's a process of taking the cotton, spinning it together in a certain pattern design, et cetera, to meet the consumer needs. And so that just isn't there, right? Nowadays, when you buy a pair of jeans, the average pair of jeans that somebody in the United States buys travels over 17,000 miles around the globe before it reaches the consumer, right? Which is just nuts. I mean, that's just insane. The first time I heard that, it's like traveling the globe nonstop, where, we can trace back to certain cotton fields in the Southeast that our cotton is grown into and spun together into yarn and dyed and put together in a certain denim mill and brought over to Texas, where it meets up with the yarn and the rivets and the zippers and all put together. So throughout this process, there are a few other brands that have been doing this or are trying to do this, but we are very few and far between. Like I said, 450 million pairs of jeans sold in the United States every year, and around 2% of them are actually made in the USA.
Well, I want to touch on our good buddy Dean Wagner. I'm very proud of myself. I remember Dean's name without having to look him up, and now I can't remember his company's name. All three of us know Dean very well, and you two are leading a change that I think is really interesting. And Camden, you touched on this a little bit. What happened, was I think it was the American automakers are the ones that lost the unique trust of made in America. And people would spend more money to go buy a Toyota because it was higher quality than the American made. Have you had to deal with any of that perspective in the setup and getting things up and operating?
Well, that's a definite yes. And some of those challenges that we've had to look for, and interesting that you bring Dean Wagner from Authentically American up. And
thank you for getting the name. Yeah. We owe that for Dean. We had to give him a shout.
Absolutely. One of my very favorite people. So interestingly enough, I'm going to take you all the way back to 1996-7 timeframe. And I'm at college and I am doing ROTC at Ohio Northern University. And one of my ROTC cadet peers was a guy by the name of Dean Bunchu. Right. Dean Bunchu, now fast forward to about 2-3 years ago, Dean Bunchu is a serial entrepreneur after serving time in the United States Army. And so I reached out to Dean. I said, Dean, hey, this Dean Bunchu, this is what I'm thinking of. He goes, and I'm like, here's how I'm going to do it. And here's what I'm thinking. And, he said, whoa, stop, back up, 50,000 foot view. If you want to do it, right? There's nothing like being an entrepreneur, but go do it. We're wasting time here. Go do it. And so that really was the, one of the first kicks in the butt that I had of, stop talking about it, just do it. And he says, here's what I'm going to do for you. He says, I'm going to introduce you to one of my friends who also goes by the name of Dean. I'm like, okay. Cool. Thanks.
What are the odds?
Yeah. And turns out it's Dean Wagner, who's, on Fox and Friends and TV, it's seemingly every other day now. He's, he's got such the network and such the outreach ability. And he had founded this company Authentically American, which produces 100% made in American apparel, socks and T-shirts and all of that. And so, he really struck a chord within me that if you want to do it, it can be done, right? Regardless of those things, Otis, that you were talking about in the factory or people push back and things like that. If you want to do it, it can be done. Is a go for it. And so, shout out to both deans for pushing me in the right direction.
The two deans, of course, are part of this, but the other aspect that comes to mind, you've been talking a lot about the community and kind of directly and indirectly at different points during the conversation. I'd love if you could talk some about what that means, either finding that community and helping to reconnect it and revitalize it like that. And even just building that community for Patriot Jean Co. and what that is like. Because the thing that keeps coming to mind for me is, as you talk about rebuilding the supply chains, and this is my shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur, is I'm like, I think I would have gotten out of jeans at some point and I would have gone full supply chain or something. I could totally see those ideas popping up. So instead, you kind of took more of a community route, just to organize it. Could you talk a little bit about what that community is like?
Yeah. And I will tell you early on as, an entrepreneur who, started the business last night, from his home office and threw up a quick website, right? I will tell you, the number of people who did not return my call or my email was frustratingly insane. So it took time and time again, persistence, taking at it from multiple different avenues. If I had somebody that could introduce me to somebody within that company, that was always a benefit. And other times it was really brute force of, leaving messages every day for weeks on end, emails ad nauseum, of trying to understand what is the capability out there. What do I need to bring in? What do we need to create? And how can we put this all together? There were some companies that, despite all of those attempts, never gave me the time of day or returned for whatever reason. But then, 3-6 months later, random chance, got introduced to somebody and boom, they became one of our best teammates. So you have to take all of that, as a grain of salt, and that you can't take personal. Everybody's trying to run their own business. And, when you have somebody like myself, Patrick, who from where and what are you trying to do and why? Right. And, working through all of that, till they understood that, no, you are going to seriously invest, bootstrap this thing, and you're determined to make this a success, and you will be with them every step along the way, even when they have their challenges. So I think, all of those things coming together to, we've talked about the product, but even, the website, I didn't know how to throw up a website or videos or, all of that. And so you just keep reaching out and, sooner or later you find connections that work, but you've got to be persistent. You've got to be persistent.
Yeah. I'm laughing because it reminds me of a phone call, a message I left with, he's been on the show. I'll call you out, Jason Punk. Good dude. Jason from Go Ruck. And, I called him, didn't hear anything, called him, didn't hear anything, called him, didn't hear anything. I was like, all right, this voicemail is the last one I'm going to leave you. And, you know what? He called me. So Jason McCarthy. Hey, I got company name and first and last name for somebody live on the show. I didn't have to look that up or nothing. Didn't have to turn around, look at the book on my shelf, anything. So I'm very happy. Great job, Otis. But you know what? That persistency. I want to just shift gears just a hair and talk about the business, because one of the things that you have done is create a business that's tough to run, because you've got parts and pieces, true distributed business. how are you maintaining or what is your quality control process? Because that's significant for something, a premium pair of American-made jeans.
Yeah, Otis, that's a great question, and so this is one of the things that I would consider in my wheelhouse of managing distributed teams. That I did so often when I was a defense contractor. And managing supply chain teams. So this is one thing that I think is absolutely in my wheelhouse, and understanding how to put that all together. So one, you've got to be able to go in and walk the factory floors, right? And so, we've done that on a number of occasions and understand what their QA, QC processes are for delivering products, right? And so not only that, but, I've got a consultant that's got 4 decades in the industry that is inspecting our garments as well, and in the process teaching me about how to do it specifically for denim jeans, right? I'm not talking about building aerospace and defense products anymore, but there are similar processes that you go through and similar checks and balances to make sure that everything works, right? Making sure your paperwork is 100% accurate has been another challenge that we've had to work through, right? Is because it gets into the production team and they say, well, this is what it looks like if we did it according to your specs. No, that's not what I wanted, right? And so, making sure your end is 100% clean, but being able to get out to the factories, bringing in experts when you need, and at the end of the day, they are all shipping right out of world headquarters in southern Arizona, of which I do a final inspect and put them all together and put them in their shipping box. So I am very confident that we've got a good process in place at each step along the way to be able to deal with these challenges.
Oh, that's awesome. Patriot Jean Co. World Headquarters. Doesn't that have a ring to it? That's got a ring. That ranks right up there with the privy.
Otis, maybe I'll just call it the talk, right?
There you go. Nobody will know what the hell it is. That's the problem with saying that. Yeah. Well, I tell you what.
Wait. All right.
What?
Am I not allowed to know? Or because I was going to ask my civilian question. All right. Tell me what it means then for all the civilians out there.
Tactical Operations Center.
Okay. There we go. Tactical Operations Center. Thanks for not making me guess, guys.
That's why you can't call it that, because that whole marketing play. Believe me, I've tried that. People don't know what it is; they just slap it away. They ain't gonna ooh, let me learn more. No, it doesn't work that way, folks.
Hey, there's the business note for the episode to all the veterans out there wanting to get into business. Is we don't like your acronyms as much as y'all do.
Every industry has them, and that's what you got to learn. And you know what I learned, and Camden put this as a mark on the wall, because we ain't never put it on those 2 white spaces behind you, because we've never had a denim head on our show. And you know what? There's our first for 10X Your Team, and even going back to the legacy show of the Cam Otis show, we've never had a denim head. So
no, sir.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as a denim head. So that's what
I didn't know either, and maybe it was just some of my peer group, feeling some empathy for me and in entitling me that. I certainly don't consider myself a denim head. But I certainly, the amount of knowledge I had beforehand, right, was, minuscule compared to everything we've learned along the road. And to even be associated with folks who've been in the industry for so long and to be encouraging of you to take a swing at it, I think it's awesome.
It is. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, this goes in the business idea realm for me. So it's something I'm going to have to think about and maybe come with some good ideas. Folks, if you're out there listening and you run with these ideas, just call me, get the 20%. We could go through that. You guys know the drill. But just thinking about old supply chains and the remnants of different supply chains and how you could connect those dots. And, whether it's jeans or whatever, there's so many different things. I'm sure that there's just these fragmented old supply chains that you might be able to reconnect into something. So that's just my thing I'm going to be pondering, and may become a business, may not, who knows. I guess that falls right into the back of the book ideas, like you say, Dan.
There you go. Supply chains are us. That's what they're ink.
There we go.
Patrick, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
No, I think, one of the biggest things for me is just learning both of you. And the more conversations that I have with people who may not agree on the approach or the product, but agree to go and do it and to, seek out those dreams and aspirations that you have. It's incredibly refreshing to me, and so I've learned that, take time for even those products, like you said, a denim head, first time ever, right? So you're not seeking out denim heads, right? So this is, but you're seeking out, how to help others find and achieve success. And so I'm going to store that one away in my, coin pocket of my jeans. And, I will take that with me and make sure to do the same going forward.
Damn, I thought it was a watch pocket. It's a coin pocket?
Well, so the secret's out. So we are going to, in select customers, we are going to put in a Patriot Jean Co coin into what we're calling the coin pocket of our jeans, that fifth pocket up front.
I love it.
Wait, origin wise, what was it though? Because you said they needed the fifth pocket. That was a hard line for them. What was the original use? Was it watch? Because I don't know actually.
So there are certain debates of it. I think the most accepted version is that it was a watch pocket. But there are some people who say, it was for coins, for a bus ride or something like that. So who knows? Ours is the official Patriot Jean Co coin, though.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. So if folks want to get a pair of jeans that have might have, because I know it's a select few, might have a Patriot Jean Co coin in it, how do they get that? Yeah,
absolutely. So go on over to the website, www.patriotjeanco.com, patriotjeanco.com. They can also find us on X, Instagram, Facebook. Over the next couple of months, we'll start populating those social media with what we're doing and the latest, greatest as our jeans are on the production floor right now and hopefully available very, very soon. I've got some copies right here. And so, we would be honored if you go check us out, order a pair. We do have a fit assurance that you can add to that to make sure you get your right fit. We also have some trucker caps and t-shirts. And so everything on our site, 100% made in the USA.
Awesome. All right. Show us that coin pocket one more time, man. No, not the coin. You got to hold them britches up and show us the coin pocket on the britches.
On the britches. So there is the back pocket and there is the coin pocket that'll slide right in.
There it is, fellas. Get you some. Hey, Patrick, really enjoyed having you on the show today. It was a lot of fun, man.
Otis, it was absolutely my pleasure. Camden, thank you so much. I've enjoyed getting to know both of you better throughout this process, and hopefully we can stay in touch going forward.
No doubt about that. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Patrick Mate, for joining us today. Where you can remember you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass them along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they could enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.